Welcome to Motorsport Coaching, the podcast for racers with racers. Miss Motivate can help get you to the next level. Every episode, she talks to the best racers of today and those that can get you there. She'll help you get better.
Racing news.
At fitness, nutrition, sports psychology, sponsorship, social media, public relations, and media training. Connect with Miss Motivate at motivatetraining.com.au. That's MOTIV, 8, training.com.au. And now, to help get you to the next level, Miss Motivate herself, Belinda Risley.
Hello crew and welcome to episode 144 of the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. I am your host Belinda Risley, and this week I am joined by Niru Singh all the way from Canada. He's a creative consultant helping motorsport better engage fans and to create memorable social media posts. He's going to go through on how to do that in today's episode, some success stories he's had, what it means to be doing content for your fans, and the type of post that you should be posting. This month over in our free motorsport coaching in our free motorsport sponsorship page, we are looking at Facebook and how you can engage more of your followers. So if you're interested and you have not already, please race over and join our free motorsport sponsorship Facebook group. Or also, if you're needing Instagram tips, over at motivate_T on Instagram. I'm doing daily tips on how to improve your Instagram. And then coming up, I'll be doing some free workshops around those actual two platforms. And then later on, we'll be having a LinkedIn specialist join us. And next week, we do have Ed come from the Social Sandwich to talk about the latest trends happening across all the platforms. So I do hope you can join that free event. All right, well, let's get started. I think I'm very excited for today's show. I know I say that every week, and I really should find a new word other than excited, but I do. I'm very passionate about bringing this podcast. It does take a lot of work with little reward, but I do hope you enjoy the episodes as much as I do delivering them, although they're not perfect or pristine, but I do hope the information presented does help you improve your motorsports performance. So if that's the case, if you don't mind, if you could please run over to the preferred platform that you're listening to this podcast today and write me a review, that would be wonderful. We can also go into the monthly draw to win one of our courses, access to our toolkit. The choice is yours, I've decided now. So that's write a review and tell us either way, even if you're not enjoying the show, or what you'd like to hear in the shows, like whether would you like some more driver profiles, do you want some more high profile driver interviews, or would you like some more case studies? This show's for you guys. Let's get started. All right, cool. Welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, Niru.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I know. Every episode I do say I'm very excited to have my guests, but I do love all of my guests.
Yeah.
You are a very special guest, Niru. Can you tell us, what do you do within motorsports?
The best way I can describe it is I'm a creative consultant that tends to watch a lot of YouTube videos. And it's mostly around racing and motorsports, obviously. But I think the best way I can sort of describe my work is I help create work that's a lot more memorable rather than consumable, specifically around fans, for fans. And really, I sort of try and look at fans as customers for businesses and for race teams. So my ethos has sort of become, trying to make anything that's sort of memorable over consumable, especially in this day and generation of, scrolling TikTok or Instagram. So that's kind of what the best way I would describe what I do in my work. Yeah.
That's so cool. And how did you get to this point? Like, what's a little bit of your background and why motorsports?
Well, because I grew up in Bahrain. So my dad took, I spent my entire time there. That's where I got introduced to racing. And then, I think with most people, when you get introduced to racing, it's hard to take us away from it. So that passion started to increase over time in the 26 years that I've been here. I think
So you yourself was a fan, first of all?
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
You've never raced or anything like that?
No, I don't think racing was ever in my sort of thinking process, to be honest. I don't know why, but it just never occurred to me.
Awesome.
Small go-karting here and there, but other than that, that's it. maybe down the road. Side note, I'm interested in MotoGP and bike racing, so that's something I'm trying to get into a lot more, race myself. So that's a side note, but yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, to your other question, how did I get involved with sort of my work? I started as a photographer, and I would still consider myself a photographer to this day and age. I feel like that's kind of at my core, that's who I am. But I've sort of transitioned into this role of understanding a more higher level of thinking on strategy and thinking about fans and how we engage fans more over time. So it's kind of transitioned through photography and marketing and now to this, but yeah.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
And so you say you do the fan-based education and you're watching like YouTube. What are you watching on YouTube to try and enhance, I guess, your skill set?
Yeah, I say I watch a lot of YouTube. So it's surprisingly actually not too much motorsport. I mean, I consume motorsport content, yes, but it's become a bit more like work now, where in terms of I analyze it a lot more rather than just sitting down to enjoy it. But I spend a lot of time, listening to podcasts from entrepreneurs, leaders. There's a big YouTube channel that I watch called Big Think, which describes just people in general. And I think a lot of my work requires me to understand people in a much deeper way. And that kind of translates to fans as well, like understanding fans in a much more deeper way and how humans just interact in general. So that's kind of what I consume on a daily basis, trying a lot of education stuff. And then occasionally like more stuff like I'm sure some of your audience might know this, but the Sidemen, small, bigger YouTube channels that are just entertainment focused and just there for laughs and whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of what I consume. Yeah.
So because we are focusing on social media, why do you like YouTube? Like, why is that your preferred platform?
Yeah, I think YouTube in itself stands out compared to Instagram or TikTok. Like I said, it's a lot more memorable over consumable, like my ethos. And I think since the day I've started watching YouTube and since its birth, basically, there's videos that I've been able to go back and watch and enjoy and still remember because they were that memorable. And it does at this point in time, it still requires a lot of your attention and focus. And there's a level of talent and skill that is required to keep an audience's attention over time, say over 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour. And I just don't think that when you compare it to TikTok or Instagram, that skill has been developed for creators just yet. I think creators on YouTube definitely have that sort of skill in their skill set of being able to keep their fans and keep their audience focused over a long period of time.
Yeah, so like I'm established that I'm older, a lot older than you, and I couldn't think of anything. Not so much worse, because I love podcasts. Like my preferred PD platform is podcasting. So I assume if I probably went into YouTube a little bit more, that I'd find those podcasters or just other PD type platforms that I'd actually embrace the information. Yeah. But I don't want to be sitting there like for an hour. Do you mean I like putting it in my ears and being able to go for a walk to consume my information. So I think it's just definitely like the learning tube and learning preference. I think I definitely would like YouTube Shorts. That'd be more up my kind of alley.
Yeah, I think it's different the way we consume content. The way I describe it obviously is not for everyone. So it always depends on the type of person and the type of fan that's really consuming all this content, right? So right now, obviously, it's very short-term focus, very short form, and a lot of creators are creating on short form. But personally, for me, I find a lot more depth and enjoyment out of watching something a bit more longer that can keep my attention for a bit longer, and I have to sit there and like really consume it and learn about it. Otherwise, I can be an addict and just keep scrolling through my phone nonstop, and you'll be there for 3 hours. So I think it's just different. And I love listening to podcasts while I'm going on a walk, or just on a train or a journey, whatever it might be. It's that's another form as well that's been becoming more and more popular over the last couple of years, at least. Yeah.
Obviously, we connected through LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So you do post. Is it daily on LinkedIn? I do see most of your posts, but is it? Yeah, is that planned that way, or is it just more of your thought-provoked opinion pieces that you put up there?
It is daily for the most part. There might be a couple days on and off where I might not post, depending on what I'm doing, whether it's at a race or something. But for the most part, yeah, it is by design for me to post every single day. Yep. But it also depends on. I think we can have a conversation on this about the quality versus quantity. I've kind of gone back and forth sometimes on if I should post something, and if it's not of high standard and high quality, then I don't feel the need to. At least to my ability of how great I can make a post. So yeah, that's by design. But I kind of go back and forth with it sometimes, whether I should do more or less. Yeah.
Yeah. And so is LinkedIn and YouTube your two preferred platforms?
LinkedIn, I think, is my preferred platform right now because of it's just allowing me to get access to new connections and new people. It was actually Instagram before that was allowing me to connect with those individuals, but I just didn't find a level of growth that I'm getting now on LinkedIn, based on the way I write and how many people it's attracting. I think it's becoming easier to attract clients on LinkedIn rather than Instagram, just because the demand's not it's not oversaturated just yet in the way Instagram has become. Yeah. And so what do you define your actual title to be? If someone says, hey, Niru, what do you do? What do you actually say in a 30-second pitch or less? I honestly say I'm a creative consultant in motorsports that helps create work that's memorable over consumable.
Great. And how do you go about that?
So I think I essentially look at certain projects that usually come my way. Sometimes it's just a level of social media management. Other times it's actually looking at the overall strategy of the business and revamping the content strategy there and redefining their goals. And then other times it's looking at how they engage with their fans and what systems are in place already and what systems can we change to make sure the fans are heard.
And are you working with athletes as well as teams and clubs, or what's your market?
Yeah, so I worked with athletes before, racing drivers before. It's sometimes with athletes, it's dependent because they usually like to take control of their own social media.
Oh, really? Not over here. They're like, we don't have time for that. We just want to go racing.
I mean, that's a fair point, but I think also I think athletes sometimes, at least from the ones I worked with, it's better to have ownership of their own platform because it comes off as like more authentic that way. But
that's right.
Yeah, I have been able to work with athletes where I've had to manage their socials, and that takes another level of skill because you have to understand how they would speak.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to just go understand who they are as a person, which requires many, many months. It's just not like get on social and talk to them. But yeah, it's athletes. It's I'm starting to go into the realm of teams. Usually they have their own in-house team, so it's a bit more difficult in terms of how I work with them. But certain series and small projects I'll work on on a 5 to 6 month basis if they want to implement a new system or a new strategy. So yeah.
And what are some of the challenges you had to overcome or you constantly come up against trying to promote an athlete or work with the athlete? I mean, you just mentioned about not being able to, I guess, do all of the content because it needs to be in their language and so forth. But what are some of the other challenges, if any? There might not be any.
I'll say more in terms of, I guess, the role itself, and it kind of combines with working with athletes at times, especially in motorsport. You feel like if you're not at an event, you can feel a lack of some FOMO, fear of missing it. And you feel very disconnected if you're not at the racetrack. And it feels like if you're not there, then you're kind of just separated away from the entire system. So those are a couple of challenges, but then also just scheduling and keeping up with the racing at all times. I did a post a couple of days ago, or today actually, on how many races happened just last weekend from the 14th to the 16th. And I think the list was about 15 races. And just maintaining that level of like upkeep with racing and seeing what's happening, seeing where people are finishing, just keeping up with that, it takes a lot of time and toll, and it takes away a lot of time from other things that you might want to do. We might have this perception that we love motorsport, but we like to step back at times as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's like you're saying, it's on the weekend, and a lot of people do get into social media content creation and go, okay, thinking it's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but it's nothing like that. It's actually more, Friday to Monday type work, and content direct. And like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be at the track, but it does help to be there. If your role is to promote that actual athlete.
Yeah, it depends per role. This social media it's people say it's social media, and it just and they just define it as one person, but really social media captures a lot of different tasks and a lot of different duties that cannot be defined by just one person doing everything at once. So I think that's also sometimes the misconception that especially maybe in motorsports, where it feels like people just don't understand the social media role, and they just put all the responsibilities and duties on that one person, and then just expect them to do all of it. So yeah.
Well, do you want to break down some of those roles?
Yeah, of course.
So tell us. It's fantastic that you're a photographer, so obviously you've got that skill set, which is a massive bonus.
Yeah. I think we probably see a lot of this more in F1. I don't think it's still gotten to that stage yet, but we can sort of categorize it as a photographer, videographer. Usually there's sometimes maybe 2 or 3 videographers and 2 or 3 photographers to capture the entire action. Then you have your copywriters that will come up with the captions and come up with actually thinking about how to captivate the audience the best way in written format. You could talk about digital strategy, how that's being implemented, scheduling the actual posts when they're actually being posted. Why is it important to actually make these posts in the first place, and is it actually impacting the fans in the first place? Because if we go out and tell the photographers and videographers to go do this work, but then it doesn't produce any results, then why are we doing this all in the first place? So I think we don't have it just yet, but having a digital strategist and coming in to a team and helping them understand, like, why are we actually doing this, and why are we posting 10 times in one day when it's just kind of going into thin air.
That's what I always tell the athletes. That's my number one thing. Before you choose any platform that you want to go on, know your why. Know why you want to go onto that platform, and know what type of content you want to post.
Exactly.
So we've just mentioned, YouTube was, say, more educational based, and it's more long form. We've got the TikToks, which whatever you want to do. We've got the LinkedIn, more B2B. So just about find the platform that resonates with you, but know your why.
Exactly. I think you hit on a very good point there. It's like we get too focused on trying to do too many things at once. So I think the best thing to do is always look at the one platform. What's your message, and what's the one person you're trying to target? And then everything becomes a lot more simple to tackle. Because if you try and focus on too many different platforms at once, then you're just going to start getting messed up in the head, and you're going to lose track of what you actually want to do. Yeah.
And so with your content creation, Niru, like you're saying, it's more fan-based. Is it more fan-based engagement, or are you looking for more building the brands? I guess my teaching's more around building your brand and looking after your sponsors. Mm-hmm. But is yours predominantly more around about fan engagements? Do you do more competitions and that, or talk me through?
Yeah, so when I say I think fan engagement, I think there might be a misunderstanding there in terms of I'm helping the brands and teams get them closer to the fans and understand who they are, really. So it's less about doing competitions, more about like understanding their behaviors on and off track, digitally and physically, and realize what they actually need out of the tracks, out of people, out of the brands itself and the teams. You'll see a lot of content being posted about the teams itself and the drivers. That's all fantastic, and it caters to the fans itself. But are we actually going and speaking to the fans itself and understanding what they actually need, and treat them in a way like a normal business would, like they are customers? And what do the customers need right now, and what's the next product we need?
That's right.
I think we tend to forget that at times in motorsport because we are so focused on just the racing itself and what's going on track. So
I know, and I guess that's what I always like promote to the drivers is that, when they're going, oh, what do I post like when I'm not racing? And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, you're kind of like living your fans' dream.
Yeah.
So they want to know what happens behind the scenes. They do want to know what you eat for breakfast. They do actually want to know, what do you do when you go to the gym?
Yeah.
Because that's what your fans want to know. What does it take to become a motorsport athlete?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just so much more than just, even that is a great starting point as well. Is like, are you actually speaking to them? And then from there, it's really digging into, this is why I love looking into like the psychology of people in general, and which is why I do a lot of research on it, is what's the deepest desire that they have, and try and unlock that in a way. I don't think we go deep
racing.
enough. Yeah, exactly.
They want to be in that seat.
They want to be in that seat. They want to be driving in that seat. So it's like really trying to understand, and I don't think we go deep enough. I think because it's just the nature of motorsport. We're doing 10, 15 races back to back.
We're still old school. It's still an old school sport.
Yes, exactly.
Like you said, we still don't have digital strategists, whereas basketball would, like most other sports do. And I think motorsport is still an old sport. Yeah.
I think I read a quote maybe a couple of days ago of like someone said that there was a quote that said there's only 3 sports. It's racing, mountaineering, and one other one that I'm forgetting. I'm really butchering this quote right now, but it mentioned that the only 3 sports is one of them happens to be racing, and then the rest of them are games. Now we can take that and dissect that in whatever way we can, but I think it might be a more controversial take. But I think in terms of the oldest sports, yes, racing is definitely like one of the oldest sports out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're still quite behind. Yeah. So as far as fan engagement actually goes in social media, I like to follow a lot of like the basketball and the NFL. I think American sports do fan engagement really well.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Yeah.
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, that's the exact. You read my mind. I've been saying this from the past. I mean, it helps that I'm in North America and in Canada, and I can sort of see firsthand really how well they do it. Lucky to have gone to some games and realized that the things they do just during the halftime shows or whatnot, they do a much, much better job. And it comes from top down, basically. And I think if it doesn't come from top down, then it's going to be very difficult to have a lot of different changes. Or it's going to be a tougher task, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they recognise the importance of fans at the latest Australian Grand Prix. I read an article, might have came from AGP itself or Porsche maybe, but that this year was the first time they didn't have the ladies' day like luncheon on the Thursday because they were saying, well, the ladies didn't want that. They actually wanted like a better experience. They just didn't want like corporate hospitality. They didn't want to come and wine and dine. They actually wanted to be more hands-on or have tours and more involved. And this is the first year they actually did it. So, it's great to see organisations starting to look at, like you said, their demographics and asking their fans what do they want and seeing the change. And as we know, like Drive to Survive is just, a skyrocketed F1.
Yeah.
And so I think, there's lots of opportunities for engagement to fans now.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great story. I didn't even know about that. I might have to take a look at what happened there, because that's very, very very fascinated by that. And you're absolutely right. I think with all this influx of new fans that have come from Drive to Survive, it's kind of made it not impossible, but quite a hands-on task to understand who all these new fans are. And I think that's what F1's kind of dealing with right now, is really trying to manage that task, because I think it's a lot to deal with, I'm sure. And they have a huge demographic.
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting that a lot of motorsport athletes and families couldn't actually get tickets to go to the event because all these new fans, like, have just, as soon as they're released, like, they've purchased it. Whereas, like, for years, we've been so used to just being able to rock up on a Sunday and getting GA tickets if we're not racing and stuff. But, as soon as the tickets released now, they were sold, and they have been for the last 2 years, like, straight away. And I remember, like, I was at the race, like, at a karting event the week before, and people were like, are you going? Are you going? And I had more friends not go than actually do attend, because, again, they couldn't get tickets because there's all these new fans that have gone out and bought it, and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, which is fantastic. We in Australia probably need to work at how we can replicate that and embrace those fans to stay. I think it's there's a I don't know what the right word is, but articles going around or rumours going around that they're going to drop the supercars, which is our Australian top tier motorsport category over here, from the Formula One events, because Formula One, now that they've got all this new finances, that can afford to bring over the F2s and F3s, whereas originally they needed the supercars to bring in the fans.
Right.
But now, like, they don't need it because they've got all these new fans. They've kind of turned around and said, well, we want you, but if you're going to have you, you're going to be like on the inside paddock. And now supercars are going, no, we don't want that. Whereas I think from a fan and from an Australian motorsport perspective, it's really important to showcase Australian motorsport on that international scale. Yeah. So it would be interesting if they don't run next year, the supercars, what the fan base would be like. Will a whole, demographic drop out, or will it just mean there's more F1 people? I'd also like to see the data from the Grand Prix to the next supercar round, and do those fans from Formula One follow or embrace supercars, Australian motorsports, and then become a fan.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting topic to go into. No, it's I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned it. And I think it's if F1 is only looking at business interests, then they don't end up listening to the fans, and they don't understand that at least the Australian fans want the supercars, supercar racing there. Will they drop out next year? That's a very plausible sort of thing.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting in a whole, and I'm sure someone's done a research. Like, we know that Drive to Survive's obviously improved fan base for Formula Ones, but what has it done locally in each of the areas for the motorsport categories? Have we seen more people engage in karting? Have we seen more people like start karting or start racing?
A good point. Yeah.
Hopefully, if not Niru, maybe that's a new project for you.
You've given me a couple new posts, and I think I need to give you some credit.
Okay, great.
For some of the posts there, because this is something really interesting to dig into. Yeah.
Yeah, but it'd be fantastic if everyone could say, okay, well, not only do we bring this much money to the economy of the area, but it also, in return of motorsports, it's done X, Y, Z. Yeah. What I'd like to know. Anyway.
This is some fascinating stuff that you'll probably end up seeing in the next couple of days. With credit of Belinda, yes. Came right from you. Yeah.
That's my right. See, I don't have time to write on LinkedIn.
Yeah. It just comes through me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'll just repost posts so you can see. So if someone's getting started out with social media, again, we've identified, like, just find the platform that resonates with your why. Yeah. Have you got any tips or recommendations about getting started, or tools, or posting, things like that? Or
yeah, I think the right off the bat, the one thing that we said was trying not to do too many things at once, because we can get overwhelmed by it. So looking at your one platform, your one message, and your one customer, and then trying to understand that holistically and figure out what those key points are, and then go from there, and then build off of that. So I would say that's one sort of tip right off the bat, because we can get overwhelmed at times if we go on too many platforms and don't have our message clear. I would also say, I think, especially with social media, it's a type of industry where you kind of have to always be curious, and you have to let your interests and your curiosity take you where you need to go. So I kind of put it in a weird sort of metaphor in terms of like, you can use the ingredients you have, and that make up your own sort of like toolbox in a way, and you can use that to make your own meals in that way. So it's make things that are unique for yourself, because the way you work with social media and the way you work in this industry, it's very unique, and you can sort of make things for yourself. And that kind of ties in with staying curious. So you can have a level of like flexibility there. This industry at the end of the day is supposed to be a bit of fun, while having some business ROI. And I think a couple other things would be just trying to find out how to solve people's problems. Honestly, you become invaluable to people once you start to figure out what their pain points are and what they really care for. And once you're able to solve them, you kind of become invaluable to people. And then lastly, I would probably say, keep your health above everything else. As much as this industry is great, you can get sucked in very quickly, especially with social, and there can be a lack of divide between when you work and when you don't work. And it can kind of suck you in. So keeping your health above everything else is going to keep you sharp in all other aspects of the area. That's kind of for starting out. I would say with your second question on tools really and resources, I think it's very important to start to learn how to write and copyright. In this entire industry, about 95% of it is actually writing, with visuals backed up. And I'd say journal frequently, every single day, because I think with motorsports you can get caught up with what's happening, and you can tend to forget a lot of things that happen during the season. And if you don't write it down, you're going to forget it all. And I think that was one mistake I made, is not writing it down, and forgetting some key details here and there. So journal frequently and figure out and learn what you did that day. And
I always advise or coach the athletes to do a performance debrief as well. So we always do a debrief on the vehicle, but it's important to do a debrief on their own performance, whether it was great, bad, what could they improve, what learnings can they have. But do that after on the travel home, on your flight, on your car trip home, to have that journal thing. I'm just going to go back. You're saying about knowing your customer, your client. I think over here, possibly that the athletes are thinking more that their sponsors are their clients, and that the fans would fall more under teams or, and again, it could just be like the wording of it. But I think if people go about, like we talk about getting fans engaged, and for us would be like, we'll do some competitions and we'll do, meet and greets and do some auto signings. That would be the content pillar of fan engagement, but more the posting is around sponsorship, like not so much getting sponsorship, but for those that have products or services, trying to promote them and promote where they're racing. But I think more of that fan engagement may come from that. They may think it comes more from the categories or, the event holder.
I think it's I think the best way to describe that sort of relationship, because I think it's all intertwined, like the driver, sponsors, and the fans itself. The drivers need money. They need that sponsorship money. But I think sponsors are also attracted to the fans and the viewers that the driver's getting. So they all sort of like work all together cohesively. And I think if you remove one part of it, it becomes very difficult to proceed forward. So they all kind of need each other in a way.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and I think if you're able to sort of get to a point where, yes, you have a lot of engaged fans and a very loyal fan base, then the sponsors will come rolling in. but then you have to sort of look at like how are the sponsors best fitting your personality and the way you work,
right.
and is there a good partnership there, and then looking at how the sponsors can get the best ROI towards your own fans. And I think if a driver knows their fans in the best way possible and understands their behaviors and what products they actually need, then it becomes a lot more easier for them to look at the exact sponsors that they need and go from there.
Yeah, that's what I say. Know your insights.
Yeah.
And like the insights is one thing, so it's quite just demographic based, but also now work out the psychographics of those fans as well.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm working with the clients when we're now doing a sponsorship proposal or expressing interest and stuff like that. We're actually doing the personas of our fans.
Yes.
So we're saying, based on our social media, our persona is Kevin. He's 12. He's 12. He's an active karter. He currently races. He lives in regional, blah, blah, blah. He's got a sister, a mum and dad, and we're actually putting that marketing description, in our initial discussions with sponsors.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a great spot as well to fully understand. And I think we could go even deeper from there, is like understanding their behaviors. Like, they like to ski during the winter time.
Yeah.
They buy these ski rental equipment. They're going to food at this local spot. They love, this exact spot, and really understanding their behaviors in that sort of context as well. Because at a certain point, then they start to feel like you can read their minds.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can anticipate their needs ahead of time, which makes them seem heard and listened to. And that's the best thing that someone can appreciate, is when they're fully listened to and heard.
Well, Niru, I've loved listening to you today. It's been fantastic. Thank you for sharing your wonderful wisdom. Is there anything else you want to wrap up or mention today?
Yeah, I mean, you can catch all my stuff on LinkedIn. I basically post on there every single day, frequently. I'm speaking about fan engagement and how best drivers or teams or series can connect with sponsors and fans. And then you can reach out to me from there, or you can see my Instagram, Niru Singer, and I'm hoping to attend a couple of races, or more than a couple of races this year, and working on some client projects that I can't speak of at the moment, but all will be revealed soon in the next couple months. So
very exciting. Well, of course, all of those links to Niru's details will be in today's show notes. Thank you again. It's been so much fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time.
Get ready for the race.
Do you feel one step closer to being the next superstar behind the wheel? MotivateTraining.com.au for more. MOTIV8training.com.au.
The green flag.
Every episode gets you one step closer to the checkered flag. The Motorsport Coaching Podcast, getting you to the checkered flag faster.